Hey guys, first, I want to say thank you for all the kind words about my Case 1 recovery tutorial. I think we set a YouTube record for not having a single thumbs down inside of 24 hours. Now, thankfully, somebody noticed this and successfully restored the time continuum by making sure it received at least one thumbs down within the 36-hour mark. So whoever you are, thank you. The world owes you a debt of gratitude. After publishing the tutorial, I did receive a few questions. I wanted to create this follow-up and hopefully answer a lot of them and maybe expand on a couple topics introduced in the tutorial that in hindsight, I wish I would have covered in a bit more detail. First question, how do I set up TACAN in the mission editor? When adding a boat, there will be an advanced waypoint action at waypoint 0 that will activate the TACAN for the boat. To change the channel, select the waypoint and click Edit. The default frequency is generally 1, but mission editors can obviously change this to whatever they want. This brings us to the next question. How do I know what the TACAN channel is for the carrier? Generally, the mission creator will include the TACAN in the briefing. If it isn't there, you should shame them publicly for having to waste your time and load up the mission in the editor to check the channel in the advanced waypoint action. How do you know what the base recovery course or BRC heading is? At the time of making this video, this is the mission creator's responsibility. The information should be included along with the TACAN channel in the mission briefing. It is possible that sometime after the release of this video, Eagle Dynamics will implement a system to get the BRC without leaving the cockpit. But for now, if it isn't in the mission brief, simply pop open the F10 map and plot the course yourself. If you're playing a mission where the F10 map does not show friendly units, you will need to open the mission in the mission editor and figure it out from there. How do you keep your jet so level in the brake? Every bank angle for a turn requires a certain amount of G loading to maintain a level turn. It is always the same no matter what speed. Therefore, if you know how many G you need to pull, you can also figure out the bank angle based off of this chart. If we take our speed of 350 knots prior to the brake and apply our 1% math, we get 3.5 G. If we plot 3.5 G on the graph, we will see that we need a bank angle of approximately 75 degrees. Now this is not something I've personally memorized. I've really only remembered that 60 degrees requires a 2G load for level flight and 70 is close enough to 3 to call it 3. And from that I can extrapolate a pretty good guesstimate as to how steep my bank angle should be. Another tip is that it helps if you ease into the load rather than just rolling hard and yanking on the stick like you haven't seen it in a week. I'm having issues getting on speed. How do I keep the aircraft on speed? This one's easy. Just get better. Next question. Just kidding. The trick here is to use trim and stop jerking the stick like you're an adolescent teenager who just saw his first adult magazine. This is really quite simple once you do it a few times. As the aircraft is slowing down, slowly increase the back pressure on the stick to stay in level flight, while simultaneously adding trim. Initially hold down the trim hat for about 1 second, let go, and give the plane a second to settle. Simply continue this process until you achieve a proper 8.1 on-speed AOA. Remember to add power as you start getting closer to on-speed so you can maintain level flight. As you practice, try to count the number of times you're having to hold trim for 1 second. Add them together, and then try again, but in fewer attempts. If you found that holding trim for 3 seconds at 1 second intervals put you relatively close, then try holding it for 3 seconds and see if that works. Really, this just takes practice. As you get close to on speed, or within the slightly fast or slightly slow range, use brief taps on the trim to adjust your AOA. And remember that change in trim will also require a power adjustment to compensate to stay level in flight. How do I fly straight and level once I'm on speed? Once you're on speed, if you find yourself in a descent, simply add power. Don't tug on this stick because this will only affect your AOA and probably cause you to stall and fall out of the sky. Once you're on speed, power is key. Adding power will increase your vertical velocity and reducing power will decrease it. Now with that in mind, here's a trick to make sure you aren't ahead or behind the power curve. I call it rocking the throttle. What you want to do is continuously move the throttle back and forth in small increments, maybe 1 inch or so. And as you get closer to where you want to be, step it down to 1/2 inch. If you need to increase power, don't just move the throttle forward and wait for it. Move it to where you believe the power setting should be, and then start rocking it back and forth. If you feel you aren't getting enough power, increase it a little bit more. but don't stop rocking the throttle. Worst case, rock it 1/4 of an inch at a time instead of 1 inch. When I'm on speed and I turn, the nose drops drastically. How do I prevent this? This one's pretty simple. Just prior to the turn, increase power slightly. Obviously, the amount of power depends on the angle of bank for the turn, but if you are rocking the throttle, adding more power when necessary shouldn't be a problem. To that effect, the opposite applies when rolling out of a turn. If you don't reduce power, you will start to climb as soon as you roll out. The best practice for this is to cut power completely to idle, and then immediately back up to arrest your descent. What does cage and uncage of the HUD do? When a plane is not flying directly or away from the wind, the HUD will adjust itself to the right or the left depending on the speed and direction of the wind. Because of this, when in a turn at high AOA, sometimes the velocity vector can fall off the HUD, or just make it hard to see. Caging the HUD removes the effect wind has on the velocity vector, bringing it to the center of the HUD at all times. This makes it easier to see where your velocity vector is in relation to the descent during the approach turn. When caged, you should also see a ghost velocity vector indicating where the velocity vector would be if uncaged. What does an energized ball mean? Basically, you want to keep the ball high rather than low. A low ball can be disastrous for you and, more importantly, the ship. No one cares if you die, but if the ship gets damaged and the mission has to be restarted, well, that's something we will care about. If the ball is high, the worst case is you bolter or get waved off, but slamming into the back of the boat, that's just embarrassing. Can you further explain the LSO rule, never lead a low or slow? If you have a high ball, you're looking at the back of the happy side. High equals safe equals happy. Make a correction to get on the happy side immediately, no matter how low you are, and keep that correction until you're on the happy side. This would imply a power addition. However, it doesn't mean to go full mill to get it back. It simply means increase your neutral power point to get back on the happy side of the datums before the next part of the groove. If you're low at the start, try to be high at the middle. Same with being slow on AOA. Make an immediate correction and don't be overly concerned with going fast. Just make the correction immediately and keep the correction coming until you get on the good side. There's no safety in being low or slow. Can you further explain the LSO rule, always lead a high or fast? If you're high coming down, you don't want to go low, so lead the ball to step it down slowly and avoid going low. Distinct stoppage of the ball as it comes down is called stepping it down. Lead the power addition to make it happen. Same with being fast. Don't overcorrect and go low. Can you further explain the LSO rule, if low and slow, fix the low before the slow? There's even less safety in being low than there is being slow, so worry about getting up before worrying about your speed. This doesn't mean climb super high, just at least get back on glide slope. Can you further explain the LSO rule, if high and fast, fix fast before the high? Increased speed means an increased descent rate to overcome later on. If you try to fix the high first, you will be at a low power setting with an increased descent rate, which means low spool up time and a lot of momentum to overcome. You will have a bad day. At the end of the day, DCS is a study sim. It requires time and effort on your part to get good at it. Instead of trying to do something as complex as a case 1 recovery pattern in its entirety, break it into smaller parts and just practice those. Start with a break, fly level, pick a point, and try to do the initial break. When you're done, keep flying straight and do it again, and keep doing it till you got it down. Then practice the next step, which would be reducing speed and getting on your AOA speed. Rinse, wash, repeat, till you feel comfortable. Then, instead of going for the approach turn, combine the 2 steps you just practiced. Get good at those first. If you concentrate on getting good at single parts of the entire approach, they will become muscle memory, and you will be able to more easily focus your efforts on the parts you need to work on. Remember, putting in time pays off. But if you're getting frustrated, go have fun. Do something else. Do things in the sim that you could never do in real life. Make yourself laugh. Have a fun time with your friends just messing around. DCS, while it is a sim, it's also a game, and games should be fun. And by fun, I mean doing whatever makes you laugh and takes the edge off. I'm looking at you, William. Hopefully this answers a lot of the questions I got from the Case 1 recovery tutorial. If you still have questions that maybe I missed, or new questions that you've thought of because of this video, leave them below and I'll answer them direct, or to the masses in future content. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys next time.